Welcome to Flow Space, the podcast season 6. If you're new here, thank you so much for being with us and welcome. And if you are one of our listeners who've been along for the journey, I'm sure you've been wondering where we've been. I'm Jerica.
And I'm Deandra. We are so excited to be back. What you can expect in this new episode is where have we been in this past year, where we are currently, and what you can be expecting on the podcast moving forward.
Yeah. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode, The Catch Up. Where has the journey led us? What have we been up to? And what does Flow Space, the podcast, look like now as a reflection of where we're at now in our journeys?
Well put. It's been a year and a month. Where have we been in that time has been, from my standpoint, a little bit of like continuing the inward journey, a lot of implementing all the things that we've spoken about in all the episodes that we've ever recorded, just a lot of putting things into practice more than learning new things, and also clarifying what it is that we're grounded in and the foundation that is carrying us forward, which is our faith and our belief in God. I think that's a big part of what this break has allowed us to get clear on, which also translates into where Flow Space, the podcast, is now and
where we're going.
Yeah.
But yeah, finish what you were going to say. That's like the thought that popped into my head.
No, yeah, take it from there.
I agree with everything that you summed up. I feel like the plethora of episodes that we have live that you can all go listen to if you choose to are a really good representation of where we were, and you can see the evolution. Obviously, the last year there's no record keeping of what the journey looked like, but all of those episodes were pretty much still very present. The themes of those episodes were present as we're journeying and learning and kind of remembering and coming back to ourselves. Lots of transformation was happening, but also at the same time, there was still lots of touch points and check-ins about Flow Space because we kept it very present in our lives. I just think that as we were figuring ourselves out, we needed that pause and that break to really connect without trying to be performative or try to portray an old version of ourselves that was connected to the podcast. And that's fine, like we gave ourselves the space. As far as like I can speak for myself, I don't know if it resonates with you, but we gave ourselves that space to now be able to show up and not feel scared, but be really confident and walk in our power where we're at today. And like you said, like that's having a much more connected, closer relationship to God. In a lot of the previous episodes, whenever I spoke of God, I would say the universe, the creator, or whatever you believe in, which is fine because that's where I was in my journey. But now today I stand here and I'm very clear that that creator is God. So that's like a big change for me and how I'll show up in the podcast now.
Yeah, I think the both of us, we got clear as to like what this is, and you summed it up well as it being a bridge between New Age spirituality and having a Christ-centered faith.
Yeah, like a Christ-centered mindset. I think the thing is that we were very heavily involved in New Age spirituality, and everything serves its purpose. So I'm not going to sit here and like have regret or anything like that. I'm grateful for the experience and all the teachings I learned while like meddling in the New Age spirituality. Because it opened my eyes to the unseen spiritual world, which I still believe is very present. For me personally, and you can share your experience, when walking with Christ and having a God-centered life, God at the center of your life, everything is still very much energetic and there is still such a spiritual world. It's not like that all goes away. So I'm grateful for what New Age taught me in that sense, especially when it comes to spiritual warfare and things of that nature. But like I said, the shift is instead of New Age, a lot of New Age is just like energy, the creator, the universe. It's ambiguous almost. It's not giving the credit to where the credit is actually due. And a lot of the times it's worshiping the creations as opposed to worshiping the creator. So that's a big shift of it. And I would love for us to be the bridge so that people who are involved in whatever they're involved in, they can sort of become clearer if they choose to, whatever God's purpose is for us, that will happen in the timeline it is meant to, because everything does serve its purpose. But I feel like that has brought me the clarity and kind of put missing pieces together for the puzzle that I was constantly seeking and searching to find answers for.
Yeah, I think that speaks to even the premise of how this podcast came to be. Yeah. I think I can speak on both of us, is that we've always been spiritual seekers of truth, greater truth. We've been adamant about that, so much so that we created this podcast, and we wanted to dive into the conscious conversations that help us get clearer on that. So I am so grateful, and I have no regrets for the entire journey. And really, I could even say that it was part of God's plan, because it creates such a depth of clarity from where I am now in comparison to where I once was, because everything was more etheric and ungrounded, whereas where I am now, I feel much more grounded in what I know to be true, which is rooted in my faith in God. But to speak a little bit more on this transitionary year that we've been on off of the podcast, I think highlights a lot of where we are currently and what we're hoping to provide listeners, which is a resource as to, like, if you're navigating that space or curious about it, this can be a platform for that, because we're like not looking to be above anyone or below anyone or anything, or teachers. Yeah, we're just speaking from our experiences.
The storytelling aspect of the podcast, like you mentioned, the conscious conversations, that's still very much present.
Yeah.
So although we're sitting here with a new identity in Christ, we can say, we're still the same people. Like, sure. We're not like brand new. Mm-hmm. We are, but not, and it's not going to change how we show up.
Yeah, we're not like holier than thou people at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to clarify.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're still very much so human beings on earth, experiencing life on earth, just with a different outlook now. That grounds us.
I think for me, the thing is that, like, I am in this world, but I'm not trying to be of this world. And that's like a big distinguishing factor of how I show up in my daily life. But I'm still me, obviously.
And to elaborate a little bit more on this year, I think it's really great that we didn't rush the process to recording. And like you mentioned, like, flow space has always been part of our conversation. Like, we would check in with one another, even to the point where we were checking weekly as to, like, okay, like, where are we on this journey? Yeah. And for a lot of that time, it was unclear. Mm-hmm. It was either unclear, or we would attempt to move forward and there would be roadblocks or pauses put in place for us to kind of reassess and go deeper and get curious as to, like, okay, why are these things showing up? We had a lot of trial and error, and even building this new set that you see here if you're on YouTube. So there was a lot of...
And if you're listening and not on YouTube, you can check us out at Flow Space, the podcast, on YouTube.
Yes, definitely check it out. We've put a lot of effort into bringing this vision to life, and even in formulating the vision took a lot of time. Even getting an idea of, like, what is it that we want to look like what is the representation that we want to go with. And that speaks to a lot of what I'm sure we will eventually dive into, because that requires a lot of faith, a lot of perseverance, trust,
surrender.
Yes.
Not rushing the process. And that's why, like, so many of our old episodes have these same themes. Like, you can apply these overarching themes, and they're still very present, because this whole journey this past year represented all of that.
Yes.
And as much as the human version of us wants to be like, yeah, let's get our podcast going, like, let's do it, like Deandra said, we were in our calendar every Monday we would have a check-in, because we were eager, we really wanted to show up, but we just had to trust that it wasn't the time, and when it was the time, we would know. And once we surrendered and let that go, things became easier, I feel. Like you said, it took a lot of detail and intention. But when we tried to think of what we wanted the set to look like or how we would create it, we were met with so much resistance. And it was really like one of the conversations that we were like, okay, like whatever it is, like let it be. And then after that, that's when it came to us, like the colors. It was just a simple conversation organically. And we were able to find everything to match the vision we had.
Yeah.
And then even after that, we had the set, we had issues, technical issues with lighting and stuff like that, because it just wasn't the time. Like we still had more growth and more things to become rooted in before being able to be on a platform, because there's a big responsibility having a platform. What we speak is very important, that we're intentional with it. And I feel like that was all part of the process getting here.
Yeah. I mean, yes, what we're speaking, like we're setting out prayers, it's where our words are being amplified by whoever is listening to us, and even just by them vibrating out of our mouth. So it's important to be clear about those things. And what's really cool about like when the set came to life and when we got clear as to like what we wanted it to look like, it was like on the same day, like everything went in the cart. Like we ordered everything right away, and that was really cool because it was, I don't know how long, but I'm going to say like months. It was some time of us trying to figure out, either months or weeks that felt like months, of us like racking our brain and then pausing from frustration and then like revisiting, and a lot of that.
No, definitely months.
Okay. Yeah. I just don't know, the sense of time is
it was like months.
And when the clarity hits, because the foundation is being more grounded and rooted, as you highlighted, that's when like things take off, So even though like it was a pause for such a long time, when it was time to pick up speed and it was time for us to move forward, it happened like boom, boom, boom. Like one thing after the other just came to life. And then we just ended up having like this set that we have today, which is so crazy because we've thought about having a set like this like lifetimes ago. So now to be here is really cool.
Yeah, because June 13th marks the 5th year anniversary of us airing our first episode. So it's really cool to see like how much has changed, how much we have changed and grown in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
But still remain the same. Like that's the cool part of it.
Yeah, because I feel like at the heart, we're always the same. It's just about like releasing those things that we pick up along the way.
Yeah.
So that's the catch up?
Yeah, that's the catch up. That's the 1 year hiatus catch up.
Okay, cool. So our themes for the podcast remain the same. They're just rooted in Christ now. And those themes can
not to cut you off, but I just want to emphasize what you're saying, because they were always rooted in Christ without giving the proper glory to Christ. And that's a big thing with the New Age. You don't know exactly what you're worshiping or praising, and you have to get really clear with that.
Yeah.
So I love that you said earlier, it's not that we're holier than thou or anything like that. The message really is still the same. It's just actually giving credit to where credit is due.
That's really like the whole difference in this shift. And it's very small in theory because it's just shifting like who gets the credit. But in that shift comes so much transformation.
Yes.
But with all that transformation also comes like the depth of clarity that is really unshakable once it's really understood. But obviously that is like something you have to walk in every day as well.
Yeah.
And that's the part where it's like we're not holier than thou, but it's just cool to have that experience and that like connection.
Because I feel like we said a little while ago, there have been so many years of searching for this peace, whether and like we've had episodes speaking about it, that the peace is internal, it's not external. You can be in the midst of chaos and have this internal sense of peace, but it was always fleeting. That peace was never lasting, long lasting. Like, yes, it got us through certain moments, but then we would find ourselves still like trying to read more self-help books or listen to more podcasts or watch more videos, like whatever it was, courses. And we were always seeking because of how fleeting it was. And now it's obviously still a daily practice to maintain that level of peace, but there's a peace that only God can provide to us. And I feel like that's part of the big shift.
Absolutely. And the maintenance of that daily is just maintaining that relationship like any other relationship.
Yeah.
Because the peace was so fleeting. It was like it was never enough, no matter like the amount of books, courses, whatever it was never enough, and it wasn't ever meant to be enough because it's of this world to a capacity. And not only is it if it's of this world, then it's not abundant, you know, like it's not something like the creation can't be the source of abundance when not acknowledging like the creator of the creation.
I dare to say that is the work of the enemy when we come to like talk about spiritual warfare. And that's why it's this false sense of peace. You know, the enemy is the prince of lies or whatever it is. And that's really what all of that fake peace is. It's all deception and illusion.
Yeah, and then it keeps us in that cycle of like anxiety, depression, sorrow.
And then wanting to do better for yourself.
Yeah.
Because obviously our spirit knows that that's not where we're meant to be. So we're going to continue seeking and seeking and seeking. And we try all these things and everything is a stepping stone, you know. Whatever your journey is, it's going to be. You will arrive where you were meant to arrive. As long as you don't have such strongholds and attachments to things that you shouldn't. And that's a process. Like that's part of the daily work that's required.
And I think it's really cool how arriving is so different. Like everyone's journey to arrive is very different.
Yes.
And I think that's really, really cool. Like looking back in hindsight, it's just beautiful, you know, like there are no mistakes. It creates such a level of peace that like shame, regret, anything that can try and hold you like that's not the work of God doesn't have a place in your heart when that peace really takes hold.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like us trying to be this bridge between New Age spirituality or ideologies and Christ-centered living is feasible because of our experiences. Like there's so many things that we have learned, let's just because of the different emotions you just shared, like shame, guilt, regret. We once spoke about like this pyramid of emotions, the high emotions, happiness, bliss, peace, they're at the top, and then like as the pyramid comes down are these lower emotions. And if you just think of it in a spiritual perspective, it kind of represents heaven and whether you want to say earth and then hell, because like the negative emotions are at the bottom, and that's where the enemy wants to keep us, like feeling shameful, regretful, guilty, and like it's the little whisper in your ear that keeps reminding you of something that you have to actively fight against.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to just like share about like the love of God, you know, like
yeah.
It's so powerful and all-consuming, and like that level of bliss and peace is available to us. Like we can literally like wake up and live in that state. It's so beautiful and attainable, and like you said, like feasible, and that is what's like so exciting about being here, because we don't have to be like woe is me or like doomsday or like prepare for those things when our faith is strong. And like building faith and maintaining faith and living in faith is not a one-time thing. Like we've mentioned in many, many episodes, even with like the New Age spirituality perspective, anything in life requires effort and work. I mean, that's how it is here. So this is no different in that way, but that's what makes it so cool that there's different ways to arrive here, because in any path that guides you here, you know, if you came across this episode, like I would assume that there's some sort of like overlap in our paths in some capacity. That's my assumption. But it's cool to see that, because like I feel a lot of us can relate to the idea of like work and effort, and it doesn't have to be a negative connotation. It's just like, you know, things that matter require us to be present and to show up, and this is no different.
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you were saying before I interrupted you about the different themes that people can expect to hear when listening to our podcasts.
Yeah, so the different themes are faith, surrender, trust, and energy.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Those are the categories in which we'll be speaking upon. And each episode will just be diving into one of those pillars in some capacity. But if those things are of interest, then you're in the right place. And we hope that if you are watching us on YouTube, that you're subscribing and keeping up with what we have to offer. And you can also find us on Instagram at Flowspace the Podcast, as well as on TikTok at Flowspace the Podcast. So catch you next time.
Yeah, catch you next time.
All right, cool.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode and tuning in, being here with us. We're really grateful that you found us.
We hope to see you next time on another episode of Flow Space the podcast. Peace.